Parlay, be careful about where you get your male advice from. You know, you have all these grifters out there. If you're a younger guy, you got to be careful about this because it's a very attractive thing for a lot of men to seek out the knowledge, wisdom, and advice from other men, you know. But a lot of these guys are just acting the part. They're acting like they're big, macho, and tough. And it's quite funny, you know. It's hilarious, actually. I get a kick out of it, you know. But at the same time, I think it's very sad. And I think it's potentially destructive for society. I think it's very destructive for an individual to believe in some of these buffoons. Because that's what they really are. They're buffoons. And they charge a fee. They charge you a cover charge to get into their realm. I would like to get the money up to designate to that. I do have the money, but I don't want to spend it on things like that. I suppose if I was opulently wealthy, maybe I would just dive into that and see what's behind the paywalls. I'd probably laugh my butt off. Yes, it would probably be hilarious to see this. I'm not going to really mention any names, but it's these people act rough and tough, and they have big mouths, very big mouths, and those people who have big mouths usually get humbled when they, I would say, blab to the wrong person. They get shut down pretty quick. You got to be careful. And don't pay for this buffoonery. You're going to be out of pocket. Plus, you're going to be going down the wrong avenue. You know, an avenue you're not supposed to be down. An avenue that's very destructive, right? You got a lot of guys out there complaining that only the 20% of guys are getting girls. I've seen some pretty regular looking guys that have regular bank accounts get some pretty women. The reason why they did that is because they have great personalities. They have excellent personalities. They might not have the most money, but they can make a girl smile. They can make a girl laugh. They can make a girl forget about her woes. Right? Not add to, and not being a man who is very indecisive, and a man that doesn't have any motivation apart from playing their video games and sitting on their behinds on the couch eating all kinds of crap. And even anybody who witnesses that, or most people for that matter who have drive, would look at that and say, that's destructive. That's self-destructive. Now, if you're doing it for pleasure and you're a very motivated individual and you're just, you know, taking some downtime to enjoy video games, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with that. But if you're addicted to video games and you wouldn't rather do anything else when you get off of work and on your weekends you are consumed by video games, I could see how anybody, man or woman, wouldn't want to hang out with you or, you know, give you the time of day, because you're not giving them the time of day. You're giving your NPCs and your character the time of day. And a lot of people, they complain about not being successful, very successful in life. And some of these kids I see brag about how many points they have online, how much they've accrued on their video game. And I'm thinking to myself, surely if you can make that kind of money in fake reality, you can make that kind of money in real reality, right? In actual reality. That's the best advice I can give to you, right? Use these years to be as productive as possible and get as much done as you possibly can. When I was younger, when I was in my 20s, I worked my butt off. I worked 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. I did 84 hours. I did that for months on end. And then I would take a vacation. It was a month. And I thought that was great. I got a whole month off every 90 days. I thought I was just privileged, but I had to go overseas for that. I had to put myself in danger of losing my life. And every day I didn't know whether or not I was going to wake up the next morning or lay my head down on my pillow that evening. It's just, you get used to it. But what I learned from that is I don't take life for granted. I'm not afraid of death, so I'm not afraid to live life. Honestly, ancient man, that was his reality. That was his reality every day. He didn't know whether or not he was going to lay his head down in the cave on that satchel of straw, right? He didn't know. But that's life. We've exchanged that for comfort and security and safety. That freedom that we used to have when we were ancient, when we were in our primal state. We're still primal in our being, primal in our nature. If I was going to give you any kind of male advice, revert back to your primal self. And I'm not saying attack people or do something untoward. I would never suggest that. That's stupid. Be peaceful, because ancient man, I believe, was peaceful. They went out and hunt. They used to hunt. They used to forage. And I believe they used to cultivate too. And the reason why I'm saying that is you need to get in touch with your natural side, which is your primal side. And understand that we would work for our food. I mean, not that we don't now, but we would go out, we would run, we would do physical activities to secure our food, and then we would eat it. So what I'm saying is, understand your primal self. Before you eat your meal, go do some exercise. Do something physically exerting. Exert yourself physically. Do something. Chop wood, whatever you got to do. Do push-ups and sit-ups. Do burpees. These kind of things. Do some physical activity. And you don't need to lift weights. All these people say, you need to lift weights. You need to pick up heavy SHIT. No, you don't. You need to pick up yourself. Think about that. Picking up yourself, metaphorically and literally. Pick up yourself. Because your answer is inside you. Nature is within you. And all things are within you. And this is what they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know this, because it would take them out of the picture. You would no longer seek them out as the answer. They want you to seek them out for the answer, so they can provide you with problem, reaction, solution. And they want to be all these things, to encapsulate your life and ultimately to subjugate you and take away your freedoms. Think about it. When you go number 2, you use Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, whatever the case might be. If you use any Charmin or, the quilted picker-upper, I don't know. Any kind of brand, almost every brand is owned by the Big Four. So it doesn't matter who you vote for, meaning what product you buy at the store. They all own your personal items. They own your toilet paper. They own the commode that you bought. They own the water that goes into that commode. And they own the facility that it goes to when you flush. They even own you up to that point because you work every day to be able to afford to go number 2. That should be for free. Shouldn't it? But anyway, that's it. Think about it. Food for thought. Stay away from those grifters, those idiots online who are big and tough and that strut their stuff and make you want to think that they're some superhero, and they have big mouths and they tell a lot of lies, and they haven't done the actual work it takes. They want to make you think that they did, right? It's all about a facade. It's all about the shell of an individual, not the inner being of that individual. It's nothing like that, is it? That's why they have you fooled. I gotta go let in my dog. He's barking. But anyway, parlay, guys, the buffoonery is at an all-time high.